AITA for blocking all possible romantic advances my coworker had tried towards me. Beforehand, I apologize for any grammar mistakes/typos, English is not my first language. I have been working at a shop inside of a hotel for around 4 months. At the beginning, I stayed pretty closed off and kept to myself most of the time, but, eventually, and unavoidably, I started making friends with the people around me. Thanks to this new wave of interactions, I met John, a guy who worked at the jewelry store at the end of the hallway. My shop is the one at the beginning of it. Overall, all of our interactions were very friendly and it was easy to keep up the conversation with him. After about 3 weeks or so, I asked him if he was married. I noticed he wore a ring, and he told me that yes, he was married, and not only that, his wife was the daughter of the store owner, his boss. So, with that, I'll jump forward a month or so when his store changed places, from the end of the hallway to right in front of my shop. The thing is, this new proximity made our interactions more frequent. He started to show interest, romantically, so I tried to show him as best as I could that I wasn't interested. A few days later, he invited me to go get lunch with him and I rejected him as kindly as I could, stating that I always bring my own food and I don't like changing plans last minute. He wasn't going to accept a no for an answer and refused to get out of the shop unless I told him why I was rejecting him. So, I asked him as a reply what were his actual intentions with me. To be honest, I was kinda sharp with my question, and I felt I made him quite uncomfortable, but he just told me he needed some time to reply and left. Once it was my time to go home, I went to my usual bus station. The thing is that, when I arrived, he was there waiting for me. Not going to lie, this made me incredibly uncomfortable and I even considered going back inside to the hotel to call a cab, but my bus was coming in a minute and I chose to wait. To summarize, he approached me but I got into the bus before he could say anything. Next morning, he got inside my shop, ready to talk, but before he could open his mouth I told him, whatever you were going to say, I don't want to hear it. You are married to a beautiful woman. I know her, she knows me. Your job depends on your relationship with her. And, on top of that, I'm not interested, you must know that by now. Let's keep things professional and don't address me unless it's something extremely important. He thanked me for being direct and left me alone. Today, he came by again and asked me if I wanted to talk. I told him that we had nothing to talk about, and he just left giving me the dirty eye. The thing is, I feel like I was too drastic with my responses and that I made a big deal out of it, yet, I believe he is being incredibly disrespectful to his wife and that he doesn't deserve any soft treatment. I can't stand cheaters. So, AITA for not even letting him confess to me? Comment. He's out of line. He will take any opening you give him, so don't. Also, think this whole thing out. This is where you work. This is the kind of drama you want to watch/read about, not the kind you want to live. You could also start recording when he comes over, if you see him heading to your store, prep to record so that you can have proof just in case. Looking for a new job is probably for the best for you so you don't get caught up in some unwanted drama where you might be labeled as the bad guy. Honestly, this guy gives me the creeps and I'm not even there. You did a beautiful job of telling him you're not interested and why, and he come back the next day asking if you want to talk. You weren't too drastic in your response, he's the kind of guy who can't take no for an answer. My only concern is, could he make trouble for you at work? I can easily see him lying about you because you rejected him. Maybe you should give your boss a heads up, or record him if he tries again. You were perfect in your response, if anything, not firm enough. Given that he's taken to following you, I'm kind of concerned for your safety up. I'm not trying to worry you or freak you out, but I would be remiss if I didn't warn you about protecting yourself from assault. The kind of guys who don't take no for an answer and who feel entitled to women are the kind of guys who hurt women for their own selfish wants. Please consider all of this in your future interactions and if this job is truly worth it. Again, I hope I'm being paranoid, but please consider it. This is straight up harassment, and it sounds like the only reason it's not sexual harassment is that you've effectively shut him down hard and fast. If he continues, make it clear you don't owe him your silence about his behavior, and if he thinks his behavior wouldn't look good to his wife or his boss, he should have a red-hot think about that fact. You refused to enter an affair with a guy you have no interest in. You showed good ethics, a healthy amount of self-respect and common sense. The same cannot be said for John, who betrayed his wife by trying to cheat, and got upset that you didn't jump at the chance to have him in your bed. Be drastic. No, seriously, be blunt and say no when you want to. Anybody tries to pursue anything past that is problematic. You don't need to spare a second of your life to hear anything he has to say. He is just some dude trying to invade your space. You owe him nothing. I hope he leaves you alone. Next story 2. AITA for asking my husband to remove himself from an account with his ex-wife. We have been married a little over a month. We had just began to discuss joining our finances and the best way to do that. I am the more financially responsible person, so I was reluctant to make a joint account, but thought that if we did this we would be able to tackle paying down debt. Further, we discussed consolidating duplicate services such as our cell phones and TV services, things we can save on by not paying twice. Via text message, I asked him what accounts he currently has open. He mentioned all but one that I had already known about, so I asked specifically about it. My exact words were, "The account was the one you initially wanted to add me to. What happened to that one?" He replied that the account had nothing in it. It's a business and a personal account. The personal account still has his ex associated with it, and when he last checked on it she had gotten a check deposited into it like 4 to 5 months ago. So he left them open. My next reply was exactly this: "Can you please remove yourself from that account then?" The next thing I know, it's World War III. He said that he knew I would do something random like that. Random? Is it random when we are talking about money, and is it random to want to have him disassociate a bank account with his ex-spouse? So I replied that we would leave our accounts separate then. I was already working on my end to remove my ex from any and all accounts, including adding my now husband to my health plan at work. Later, when some time had passed during the day, he texted and asked if I was done throwing my tantrum. When I replied, I let him know that his reaction to the question was defensive, so I'd rather not deal with any more upset surrounding money and it's best we keep our finances separate. Then he lashed out at me via text saying that my only motivation in asking was simply because his ex-wife was associated with the account. I clarified my intent was so we could start fresh as a married couple and that I was already in the process of adding him and removing my ex, but by that point, all hell had broken loose and he was blinded by his own convictions and pride. So am I the asshole in how I posed the question? AITA for not clarifying right away and letting him run off with his own assumptions. My take is it shouldn't matter what my reasons are. He should want to start a life with me and do what would make me feel secure in our new marriage. He is later on went to say that the compromise to settle the argument would be to close all accounts with our exes. Compromise? Isn't that a given? I don't know how or why my simple question couldn't have been met with a simple yes and an I accept the same. Instead, he blew something way out of proportion, wants a divorce, and has already packed up and left. Comment. Why do you care who was right or wrong in this? Be done with this guy and consider it a bonus that it only lasted a month. His behavior sounds like he's guilty of something, as to what, I have no idea. It almost sounds like he's holding onto his ex. He is probably putting money into that account for her and is still supporting her in some way financially. That would be my guess as to why he immediately got angry and defensive. Removing exes from one's account is a normal part of divorce, and an absolute must-do prior to marrying someone else. You asking for him to do that is a total no-brainer. His reaction is pretty extreme and he may be hiding something. Accusing you of having a tantrum is a pretty big deflection and also a red flag marriage-wise. Oh wow. And he thinks you're the one who had the tantrum, and yet he has packed his stuff, left, and wants a divorce. Having any legal paperwork, including a bank account, with both his and his ex's name on it will affect you in the long run. If the ex does something with that bank account, such as overdraw it, the bank can legally come after your joint account with him. Yeah, at this point in time, I wouldn't be having anything in joint names with him yet until he can prove himself as being reliant. Okay, if he really packed up and left, now is your chance to do some hard snooping. Go through all his paperwork, bills, etc. and see if you can find any statements from that account. If he has a checkbook, look through that too. You need answers, and I am fairly certain he's hiding something. There's some weird shit going on with that account that he doesn't want you to know about. But it must be big if it's enough to want a divorce over it. Be glad you didn't combine accounts. Good you found out now. If you stay there will be more blow-ups. Don't let him come back. Here is some serious shady financial activity going on with him and his ex. So much so, that instead of having it exposed, he'd rather pack and leave. Or maybe, he was just waiting to get his mitts on your money. Either way, you avoided being ripped off or being unwittingly involved in their financial shenanigans. Count your blessings. Definitely not the Do they have children together? My husband is retired from military. He paid child support, but he wanted his children to have whatever they need. So, he set up account with X, where he put extra money in it and she had access. Also, he had credit card, especially when his kids got cars, for large purchases such tires. I've always known about these accounts. Now that his children are grown, the account have been closed.